Chapter 13. The funeral service for King Victor was solemn and honored in the old king, who was both a warrior and a father. Princess Bailey stood next to her father's casket, next to her sister Rosalie. Upon the king's casket, among all the flowers left by friends, family, and mourners, lay his sword and shield, both worn from battle. There had been quite a few people who had come to pay their last respects to this man, but most of them had left by now, leaving the princesses to mourn in each other's arms. Prince Michael and his knights arrived at the front gates of the palace, but were stopped by the guards. "Halt!" shouted one heavily armored man. "Who are you?" He approached Prince Michael's horse, a black stallion with gray mane and tail. "Prince Michael, from the neighboring kingdom. Here to speak with Princess Bailey." "The princesses do not wish to speak to you. Now be gone." "Princesses?" "Oh yes, Princess Bailey had a sister." "Please, it is of utmost importance." "We have our orders." The guard glared over the prince. "Sir, she is my betrothed. I wish only to give my condolences for her father's death." The two men looked at each other, then back to the prince. "Very well, you may pass." They stepped to either side so that he and the knights could get by. He rode up the cobblestone path that led to the castle doors. As he dismounted, he put a hand on the horse's neck. "Stay still," he commanded, leaving the exhausted beast where he stood. Stone stairs stood at the front of the castle, which dwarfed Prince Michael's home. The doors were intricately carved with the late king's family crest of a gilded hippogriff, ready to attack its enemies. They reminded the prince of his hydra of his own seal. He pushed one of the thick double doors open and began his search for the princess, leaving the knights outside with his horse. He wouldn't be needing their company inside, so they could busy themselves however they saw fit. He was quickly stopped by an old woman who seemed to be the handmaiden. "Excuse me, but who are you?" The woman, who was much shorter than the prince, asked as she walked toward him. He looked at her, annoyed to be halted for the second time in as many minutes. "Be civil with her. She probably works for Princess Bailey." He sighed. "I am Prince Michael. I received news of the death of King Victor. He was a good man." The woman eyed the prince. Suspicious. "The funeral rites have ended, sir. You can return to your palace." Such insolence from the servant, but he didn't argue with her. "Unfortunately, I am very late. I came as soon as I heard to give my condolences to the princesses. Where might they be?" She was silent, reluctant to answer. "Princess Rosalie, I suppose, is in her quarters with her husband." She was quiet for another moment, testing the prince's patience. "Princess Bailey is in her own quarters." "And where would that be?" She rolled her eyes. "Follow me." She led him out of the front entrance and up a grand spiraling staircase. He followed her up the stairs and down a wide hallway. The woman walked to the very last door of the corridor. Knocking softly, she spoke. "Princess Bailey, you have a visitor." "Please send them away or give them room for the night. I will speak with them tomorrow." It sounded like she had been crying, as her beautiful voice was cracking. But she had good reason to be upset, as her father had just died, leaving her his heir. Having lost both of his parents, he could sympathize with her. "It is Prince Michael, your highness," the maid said, trying to convince the princess to open the door. "As I said, send him away. I will speak with him tomorrow." She sounded angry now. "Very well, princess. The woman turned to face the prince. "You are the princess." She sighed softly. "I'll prepare a room for you. Feel free to do as you wish it while you wait." She bowed before walking to a door on the right side of the hall, entering it. He nodded, going up to the stairs. He was going to the kitchen to find something to eat, but he stopped at the stairs. Hearing Bailey cry, it pulled at something in him. It seemed to do that every time she cried. He turned back towards her door, and with a groan of annoyance toward himself, he walked back to the door and knocked. "I said leave!" she shouted through the thick oak. He tried to open the door and was surprised to find it unlocked. He stepped into her room. "Knew I should have locked that thing." Her back was facing him as she sat on the right side of the bed. "I'm very tired. Can't this wait until morning?" "It could, but maybe it would be better if we talk now." He approached the bed, fearing she may throw something in his head like a book or candle. "Why do you insist?" Her head was in her hands. The prince felt a retching inside his chest. He felt her loss, her pain, her sorrow. "You are upset." He was quiet for a moment as he stood beside her. "And I've heard it's better to talk about things like this instead of bottling them up inside you." She lifted her head and turned to face him. "Why do you care?" Tears stained her face. I'm not sure myself, princess." I'm not sure myself, Bailey." He didn't call her princess, which he thought was strange. Her eyes were red from sobbing fits, which the prince thought was a plague to her beautiful face. She pointed at the door. "Then please, leave." "No, not until you speak to me, or at least face me properly." She turned with her body to face him, with a scowl on her face. "Stubborn as always." Her voice cracked once more. "And always will be. Now might I sit down?" She nodded, motioning toward a chair near the bed. She was wearing a black morning gown. He sat in the chair, not sure where to begin. "Well, you wanted to speak, so speak." Her patience seemed shorter than the princess he'd come to know. The death of someone so close to you would do that. "Bailey, when my parents passed away, I had no one to talk to. No one to confide in. They were just gone. The difference here is you do have someone. Your sister, your maids, me. What is your point? Please make it and get out." "My point is I'm here if you need to talk. If you need anything, as I wish someone had done the same for me." He frowned, looking at the stone floor. "I thank you, but for now I wish to be alone. The funeral was very tiring." "I understand. I'll show myself out." He rose from his seat and walked toward the door. "Wait!" She stopped him. "Yes, Bailey?" He turned back to face her. "On second thought, perhaps it would be better if you stayed. She broke down in more tears. "I don't want to be alone." He walked her quickly back to the bed, sitting next to her on the bed. And what he did next was surprise even himself. He wrapped his arms around her, laying his chin on her slender shoulder. "It's all right, Bailey, you can cry." He held her as she softly sobbed, tears running from her face. "Thank you." Her voice quivered as she shook. He rubbed her head back gently. He rubbed her back gently, trying to calm her. You're welcome. I'm here if you need me. If you need anything. The two stayed like this for the majority of the night, with Prince Michael consoling the princess until she was relaxed enough to fall asleep. He then silently moved from the bed and walked to a couch on the other side of the room. She had said she didn't want to be alone, so he would not leave her. He watched her while she slept, turning from side to side, and every now and then. It was sleep, but it was not peaceful. He couldn't imagine the pain she was going through. Was it the same pain he had gone through when they had passed? The pain that had made him so bitter, so callous? He had lost both of his parents and had not known what to do with himself. Mourning that loss had changed him. He just hoped Bailey didn't go through that same change. He'd do anything to prevent that. Being unable to bear the sight of such an amazing woman, shut down as he had,